¿De fecha cuánto tenemos hoy? 3. El 19 tenemos de cumpleaños de qué? Ajá, está de cumpleaños el 19. Ah, eso, más del todo. Más del todo. Gracias. Bueno, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Welcome to our friends that are looking at us from with the internet. We are from Guatemala. To greeting to our friends from Guatemala, from Colombia, Costa Rica, Mexico, Nicaragua, El Salvador. Greeting to all of them, and also to our friends in Argentina that they're going to do the conversation to the start tomorrow. Let's talk about a little bit to the point that I want to go to. Science. The science, some people say that is a system, order, order of knowledge in a very well structured form that it studies, investigate, and also interpret the natural things. They are science socials. Some way the knowledge, the scientific knowledge, it's obtained by the observation, experimentation, in environments specifics. Try and mistake. So from that system, they started to discover laws that are universal. That way they can start to formulate formulas, mathematics, in some way through the mathematics used as a language to reveal all that what the scientifics have discovered. Some way, all this scientific system is based in the things that are material, and they can achieve a little. They can discover like the energy, an energy that cannot be discovered by microscopy, alpha, beta. They can produce them, but everything from the things that are material by applying forces. We can go to an, and they have discovered the laws, but everything since the things that are material, and this has given us a point of view that the science cannot be compatible or doesn't match with the spiritual things. Also, from the last years, there are some scientifics that are practicing some religion, culture, trying in some way to 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 be between the science and the spiritual things. The science has a limit. The science has questions that cannot be responded by them. In some way, from those limits, it starts quantum physics, the maximum particular, it's the atom, and it can go to another universe inside that initial thing, and it can be named a group of theories. It's a, it's a group of theories that start by philosophy. That's how they start, by thinking what is beyond the limits that the science has discovered. Those theories, these ways to think, in some way have opened kind of ways that also they are inside the science. Some say that based in that quantum physics They are articles that are born
a partir
from
de
the
la cuántica.
quanticum.
Eh, y de
In some
alguna
way,
manera, a través de la
through the
observación,
observations and also the laws that the science has
comienzan
taught,
a dialogar en su mente, de alguna
in
manera
some way they can start to think and
sobre
talk
una realidad
about a reality that can be beyond
más allá
of the
de lo
things that are
conocido,
tangible, something that is not
de lo
new.
nuevo,
A
de
lot
lo
of people
creado.
has studied have studied about the
Llegas y ves a la manera de cuatro personas
about the
conversando
theory that are four
sobre
people that is
la
from
simulación de una
they were
realidad que
talking
estaba
about
detrás de ellos.
another reality
Esta
that they were
filosofía griega
inside, like
años
in a
atrás
place
quiso
that was
demostrar,
dark.
trataba de
That
demostrar
thing
que la
tries
realidad
to let us know that the reality that we believe
era
that we
una
are,
realidad
there is a
más
reality
atrás,
beyond
que
that a
puede
lot, so a few people can
y
be
así
able
la
to be
necesidad del ser
there.
humano de búsqueda de verdad
So
genera
looking
este
for the
tipo de
truth,
descubrimientos
it generates
en la física
those
cuántica,
things, the quantum
también
physics.
podría decirse lo que le llaman la diferencia entre física cuántica y mecánica cuántica.
Quantum physics,
Como les digo, no soy experto.
they
Comienzan
started to
a
talk about
filosofar
that in some
de
way,
alguna manera
a difference
la diferencia
that has the quanticums and the scientifics about that science
la ciencia había
had perceived
concebido
that the creation was like
una
a
maquinaria
clock, that it has a
de
movement
movimientos de
in a
alguna
some way
manera. Y
predictable.
esto la filosofía
That's when we see the people that are
unido con una
in charge
energía
to look the cards.
también
The quanticum has another position. The quanticum says that in some way
de alguna
this
manera esta
clock,
maquinaria se mueve
this is moved
predictiblemente,
impredictably
posiblemente afectada por el observador como un átomo
as the atom.
el
They has
comportamiento del
they have
átomo,
seen that the
si alguien está
atom
viendo
is
o
the
no.
movement is done
Pareciera que un
by an
átomo
atom.
y una bacteria
It could be
pudiera estar
in two
en
places at
dos
the same
lugares
time.
al mismo tiempo.
That's
Y esto,
the
con pruebas de laboratorio,
laboratory proofs.
ya dejaron de ser
They stopped to
filosofía.
be just
Con
theoric.
el tiempo fueron pensando
Before they were just a
hasta que la
thought,
ciencia
but
logró
until now that the science was able to prove that theoric.
bueno,
So at this time,
pareciera
based on
que
what I have read,
la cuántica está
the
abriendo
quantum
camino
physics has
a la
opened
ciencia
a way
de
to
la
a science
realidad.
until the science goes.
Sin embargo, aún
But
allí
even though
la
there, the quantum works
trabaja
over the things that are material, looking to produce effects to something that is beyond the material
pero no puede
things.
trabajar
But it cannot work more than the material.
tiene
It
que
has to work with
trabajar
the things that are able to be seen, to be touched.
eh, las luego surge ahora
Then, in the last decades,
lo que se llama
as
la
it's called the neuroscience,
al principio
at the beginning,
eran
they were just crazy things,
hablando
talking about, for example,
que muchas
sickness.
de alguna manera
Those has a cost,
somáticas
psychosomatic. A lot of scientifics has been investigating about the effect of the word, also the thoughts over the
sobre la
material
materia.
things. There are some scientifics that they freeze
Congelan el
the
agua
water, they hold the water in a determined temperature, and they can observe the behavior of the water,
tiene
that
formas
it has a beautiful figures,
pareciera
and it looks so beautiful that it look like they are done by the
estos
natural.
científicos han demostrado
And those scientifics have been discovered
que poner
the effect
al agua
of
antes de
putting
freírla
a word
y después ponerla
before
caliente,
putting that water
la
on
manera en
to
que
be
las
freezed.
moléculas se comportan
The behavior of those waters are different.
se
That way they can discover that there is an influence of an
esta
energy
energía
over the
está viniendo,
material things.
esta línea
This
está
line that I just mentioned is conclude
diciendo
that if our body is more than 60% of water, we could say we could affect no, the effect of our words, our thoughts that I say about me, they can have an effect over our body. There is a book about the neuroscience that it talks about attitudes anti-cancer. So that way we can talk about some scientifics that they are just showing us the attitude of the thoughts, the emotions, they have an effect over the material things. This is some way that the love, a lovely person, a person that is in love, that person go down of weight, and not necessarily because that person is stop eating, not because that metabolism is that person starts to be desintoxicated and expose all the things that it doesn't need. Also about those feelings about love, they have shown that the way to feel the things, all the people starts to feel all everything like sweet. Also, they have discovered and shown that the capacity that the body has is able to change when that person is in love. To the opposite, the person that is always angry, explosive, and some way they have shown that it becomes the way to the medium and large place when they can. So when someone is angry, that person is able to be more, to have more sickness or more, to be sickness, to have sicknesses in the future. So we can see that the science and all uh, they have all the science have discovered there is something more, that is something beyond the material, but they are unable to make any changes in that world, in that universe. They say now, how am I? I'm sorry. Let's do a recap. I have shared with you different thoughts about the sickness that we have been working since a lot of years, from a crisis that my wife had maybe like 9 years ago, until we detect that the problem of the kidney was up. It was done by a psychological thing. So we attack that psychological thing. But what about the science, the medicine, something physical? That person consumes something more than normal. So again, we go to a physical thing. That's why in the medicine has become a holistic thing. A few people has the capacity to manage uh, a body with a soul that has a spiritual thing, as intelligence, that it has something that is material and that is necessary, a treatment, a treatment to the physical thing. We have to work also in the psyche of a person, and also in a way to have the ability to work in the area that is spiritual. So that way we are talking about the holistic way in a program that the person is looking at or is working with. I have mentioned a lot of things about Lisa Hain. That person got cancer. She got operated a lot of things until she investigated. She investigates about a psychological problem that he had, that she has before. So she was able to cure that sickness. She has written a lot of books about that. She was able to determine a cause, a psychotomatic cause to a lot of sickness that are in the body of the humans. And also, she proposed a solution to change that problem that the person has. In some way, we have to treat the cause. I have mentioned before also the charismatic medicine, an oncology, and in Germany, he's from Germany. He was able to see a problem inside the brains as when someone threw a rock with the water, like a lot of rings over the water. Nobody was able to know what those rings were about. He went with an specialist, and he was told that it was because the machine was damaged, but he was able to know that it was not about a damage that the machine has. He was able to see that the emotion or the feeling that was causing the cancer. In a way, there was a relation with that part where with the organ that was affected. So there was born the charismatic medicine. Also with the scientifics, it has he got problems. He's still alive in Spain. I'm mentioning all this because, in a way, the human needs to look for a solution. I've been talking about this, like diabetes is or cancer is bad. It looks more like a plague. There is no one of us that, or a familiar, or a friend, that is suffering of with those kind of sicknesses. So the science can give us a solution. Nobody, as their vet says, nobody knows where they came from. It was horrible. And nobody can stop that. So that there are a few food that has like particular things that can cause cancer. They know, but they cannot give us a solution. They cannot give us a straight cause of that cause cancer. So definitely we're doing something wrong. Our people think that without eating meat they will be able without being with cancer, but there are a lot of things that change the things with to the vegetables. This is horrible, to be honest. And we can enter with panic. But something attract my attention that I read that scientific say recognizing the effect that the thoughts they say that the conscience is able to to do an effect to the genome, to the DNA of the human. The way how we think, it's able to change the DNA of the human race. And our scientific says that if you increase your conscience, the change in your lives will become. This week, my daughter makes me think about what we believe. And and it doesn't matter what you believe. This person was telling to my daughter what's the knowledge that she has about topic, because that knowledge makes a belief, and a lot of people is with a belief that they have not understand yet.
es de discernir. Y eso es
And that's just
creer.
belief, just by belief, because they don't know what exactly that is
Entonces
about.
hemos platicado sobre una creencia
There is a belief that we have been
a través del
working at that
conocimiento.
about the knowledge,
Vamos a ver si creemos,
and we go to conclusions
pero no es
with
creer
that
por
knowledge.
entender.
But it's not like we
Es
believe
conocer.
something because
Creer
I
conocer.
cannot understand or just
Tener
by
fe.
faith. We have a knowledge.
Conocimiento. Y por eso decía,
That's why this person was telling to Chaim,
decía,
you see the sun, you know the
conoces,
sun, and it
no
doesn't
depende de una creencia.
depend on a belief.
Uno va
So we
adquiriendo
keep
fe
getting knowledge, and
y
this
se genera
knowledge
una fe.
generates
Pero
a belief. But it's
una
not a
creencia que
belief
está
that
basado
is
en
based.
un dogma, ¿no?
It's something that is
Que ya se
already comprehended,
estableció, que ya se estableció
that is
cómo
already established, how the things are. These
si se
people
establece
say
conocido, si le
that
establece conocido,
maybe the term is gonna be
no se
known
vayan a
for you.
extrañar. Así como
How
aumento
am I able to
a
increase my conscience if
terapia
my
astral,
conscience is going to be able to
cómo aumento
change my DNA?
y esta gente
So these
dice
people
que la
say that a
conciencia se desarrolla
conscience
abrazando la
is
realidad.
able to be used, giving a hug to the
Como
reality,
dijo un famoso
to the
rabino,
real thing.
¿ya? Todo lo que
Everything that
hizo,
happened in our life is done by the God, by the Lord.
todo lo que él
All
hace, bueno,
what He does is perfect, good.
no juzgar.
So we cannot judge.
Todo lo que
All we have to do
tenemos que hacer es abrazar lo que estamos viviendo. Hay un
is
libro
stay on what we believe,
que se
on where
llama,
we are living.
¿cómo se dice en inglés? Que se llama ¿cómo? Psicología
Pragmatic
pragmática.
psychology
Psicología pragmática
is
trata
about to
de
fight
lucha contra una
with a condition, a physical condition. That person is fighting
y la psicología
with that
pragmática
sickness. So the pragmatic psychology says that we have to be calm with that
mantener la enfermedad
sickness.
precisamente
Some
para
way
que
that
salga
sickness is going to
el
be
problema.
stopped
Manera
being
pacífica.
a problem. So the same body is going to be able to be
Hay
cured
libros escritos
by
sobre eso.
themselves, and there are a lot of books about that. That's what it says. That when it comes to life, do not just judge that.
Abrázalo.
Just
Estamos
stay calm, because if you judge, you're going to look for someone to blame,
la piedad que tienes
and you're going to blame someone else of living
te
what you're
establece
living.
conocido eso.
When
Cuando
we
limitamos
limit our conscience
todo
to our
aquello
logic, everything
se vuelve
what we know becomes not
nos
able.
cerramos a la posibilidad de pensar
We are
en
close
otra
to
manera.
think in another way.
Todos estos
All these
postulados
statements
siempre han buscado la Torah.
are always in the
Viniendo de
Torah,
los científicos,
but looking at the scientific state
parecen más
become more um,
atractivos.
able to be
Hay
believed.
una persona
There is a person that since I know, I keep telling him,
mira, hay que
we
hacer
have to
esto,
do that or not,
lo otro.
talking about health.
Ya hay
You
que
have to change that, the other
cambiar
thing.
hasta
Until that
que
person
una
took a
crisis.
crisis, was with a crisis,
Yo le
I
recomendé
recommended him a doctor that also that person was looking for a psychological
y
things. But when he
yo le
went
dije,
out,
¿qué te dijo?
I asked him, what was your
¿Qué te dijo?
what he
¿Qué te
told
has
you?
dicho vos? Pero
Everything what you've been telling me, but I believed him because he was a doctor, he was in a clinic. But everything that I was telling him,
él creyó.
until that doctor told that to him, he believed and he started to change. So there are a lot of things that are quantum things, the scientific that are beyond the material things,
Es lo que la Torah nos ha hecho
is what the Torah have been telling us always.
y siempre
But why, when the
todos
scientific
los días
says we
hay que
believe in
creerlo.
them? And the only response that I found is because this
Esa
science
ciencia
is that
es la que ha
have
formado
been
nuestra manera de pensar
is structuring or working in our way to think. The
La
way
manera en que
that our logic
nuestra
works
naturaleza
has been designed for
con
that
ese sistema
scientific
científico
system. And it has
y
created
una confianza
a
ciega hacia lo que los científicos dicen,
blind trust.
haciendo posiblemente
Man possibly thinks
la
the
religión
science,
más
the
grande del
religion
mundo.
that is biggest
Porque si un
than
científico
of
dice
the
algo,
world. Because if a
pareciera que es
scientific
ley,
says something, it looks like it's a law or it's something the
pero la
truth.
Torah dice,
But if the Torah says something, we
se
keep
dieron cuenta en
asking if it's
Haftarah,
that true or not.
segundo de Reyes,
Based in our
durante los
Haftarah,
tiempos del Egipto,
there is a king
que se le había
that
dicho,
was told
se le había
he
dado
was
una
given with a
profecía
prophecy
y él
and
se
he
rehusó a
resisted to believe in
creerla.
that.
Vamos a ver si encuentro dónde estaba la
Let's see, I'm
profecía.
going to look for that prophecy now.
¿Dónde está la
I can
profecía?
find
En la
the part that
parte
it's that prophecy.
la cita textual, no la he dicho.
I'm going to look for that.
Segundo libro de Reyes, capítulo 7, segundo libro de Reyes,
Second Kings,
capítulo
right?
7,
Second King, chapter 7, from
versículo
verse
16, vamos
16.
a leer.
And the people went out and spoiled the tents of the Syrians. So a measure of fine flour
Esa medida
was sold for a
fina
shekel,
fue vendida por un siclo.
and 2 measures of barley for a shekel,
Este varón
according to the word of the
había
Lord.
una palabra de Yahweh.
It had a word
Había una
that was
palabra, se lo había dicho.
said before. And the
Había
king appointed to
a la
the
puerta
Lord and the host
Hulda,
hand he leaned
llamado
to have the charge of the gate. And the people tried to open him the
la
gate,
puerta.
and he died, as the man of God
Lo había dicho.
has said, who would speak
Y
when
había
the king came
cuando
down
el
to
rey
him.
pasó,
And it came to pass as the man of God had spoken to the
que
king,
había
saying,
cuando él
2 measures of barley for a
una medida
shekel,
de cebada
and a measure of fine
y
flour
una medida
for a
de flor de
shekel
harina
shall be tomorrow about this time at the gate of Samaria.
en la puerta del rey.
And that Lord answered
Capitán
the man
mayor
of God
dice
and said, now,
que
behold, if the Lord should make windows in heaven,
ventanas en el cielo
might such a thing be? So in that logic, in his logic,
era
what the prophet was
había dicho era imposible.
had said was impossible.
Y
And
él
he
dijo,
said, behold,
he
thou
aquí
shalt see it with the thine eyes,
pero
but
no comerás.
shall not eat it before. And so he fled unto
El
him, for
pueblo
the people
valió
trod upon
por
him
eso.
in the gate, and he died.
De alguna manera y en otra
In
oportunidad
another
hemos
opportunity, I
hablado
have told about
acerca de la forma en que
the way that we
pensamos
think
una
and
forma
our logic, that
distinta
is totally
a lo que
different
está
to the logic
escrito.
of our Torah. And that's why, even
Aunque la Torah
though that
dice
our Torah
esto,
says something,
nos cuesta
it's
aceptarlo,
difficult for us to believe in that. It's
aceptarlo.
difficult to us to accept that
Porque de
because,
alguna manera
and I'm not
nos
opposite to the science or,
Pero mi pregunta es, ¿por qué
but the question
creemos
is why we believe more
más
to a
en lo que dice
scientific
la Torah?
more than at what the Torah says.
Tenemos
We
una
have
fe
a
ciega,
faith blind
porque
because
de una manera
they
estructurada
have been structuring
nuestro
the way that we
pensamiento.
think.
Por
That's
eso,
why
cuando
when we
limitamos
limit our conclusions to our
nuestro
logic,
raciocinio,
everything that we haven't
se
known,
vuelve impensable,
it becomes to us like
inviable y
impossible. We become close to
pensar de
thinking
manera
another way,
distinta.
to a different way. It's the Torah says.
Seré santificado por los cercanos a mí.
Remember when Nadab and Abihu died?
Seré santificado por los cercanos a mí.
I will have glory by the people
Seré afectada
that
por
has
la
glory.
misma similitud de forma.
It's based on the
Dos objetos
about
totalmente
two
distintos.
objects that are totally
En el,
different
ter-
in the physical, in
en
our
el mundo físico, el micrófono
world that is physical.
puede
This
fabricarse
object can
en
be
similitudes
that
distintas
has a different
y
ways
estar juntos.
can be together with another thing, but in our spiritual world, in the way
En la
that
medida que se
those
parecen
are similar,
y en la medida
they are
en que
together,
se diferencian,
and the way that they are different, they
de
are
diferente forma,
far away.
están alejados.
That's why Johanan says,
el que le cae bien, hablando de su
who
majestad,
lives in him,
debe de andar
who
como
believes in him,
anduvo.
will be
¿Ya?
able to act as he
En
acts.
cambio, de forma. Glory. Por los
So
cercanos
by the
a mí,
people that is close to
tendré
me, I will
tanta
have
gloria.
glory. But the question is
La
now,
pregunta es, ¿será que nuestra
our
forma
thing to think,
diseñada
designed by a scientific system
un
with a
pensamiento
requirement
humano
thought or
colabore
culture is going to
con la
collaborate with us
cercanía con Dios?
or not to be close to God?
Entonces anulamos nuestra capacidad de
So
razonar y caemos otra vez en
we are closed again to think in another way and
trata
learn
de cambiar la forma de ver
that way.
de una manera egoísta
We have to
a
look
una manera
from
altruista.
a way that is selfish and think just about me
Es la forma
and start to think
del mundo.
about him. What
¿Qué
it
es
is
altruismo
altruism, desire for
¿Qué es
him.
para él? El
The language, the altruism language
deseo de
is
y su voluntad.
all about him.
La percepción
The selfish
es la que tenemos
perception that we have is that everything is in our it's by us.
Por eso
That's
antes
why
en la otra
before
religión
in the another religion
oraban
we
por
were
un Dios
praying for another divinity. It looks more like he was our slave
comer,
because I was speaking to him when I had a needed
no me has contestado la oración. Y ahí tienes la contestación.
in the morning, the
Y
afternoon,
con gusto cumplirlo.
until he
Claro. Entonces la pregunta
completes
es,
my
¿quién es Dios?
miracle. So the question is, who is God?
En el
In the
contexto de
altruism
Dios,
language, when everything is
alrededor
about
de
Him,
Él,
and I don't have to do anything there, it's totally different. We have a Lord, we have a God. In Exodus,
yo tendré
that
misericordia
says that I will be.
y tenga misericordia y me compadeceré de quien yo me compadezca.
I
Sácalo,
can't
yo digo,
say like
sácalo.
or exclaiming to cure someone.
Comienzo yo a atisbar
I start to do as
al Creador
I start to think
que escuchar
or to understand that I have a Lord that
esa
He doesn't have to give me nothing
misericordia.
as a Lord and me
Comienza a
as the
cambiar
creation that I don't deserve
comienza a cambiar
anything. And then it's when our way to think starts to change.
que la
Then
relación
we
con Él
start
no debe
to
de
think
basarse
that the relation that I'm going to have with the Lord is not going to be based
alrededor de lo que
on
Él es,
my needs, just on what He is and His voluntary.
sino la propia oración, la propia oración. No debe de girar. Imagínese
The
usted cuando
prayer
usted va a
that
orar,
we do,
usted tiene necesidad.
it not doesn't have to be just when we have a need or we need when we need something. So based in which
Mira la
is the relation going to be
Entonces,
based
la
with the
religión
man or the
es lo
Lord?
externo
So the religion starts to
para
do
con Dios.
a way to achieve
Dios
the goals
es
that
Dios.
God has to this word.
Así que es
So it's about to change our logic. So it's not about the change how we, well,
de
it's
cambiar la
about the way
y esto se logra por medio de la
to think,
creencia,
and it is about
por medio de la
faith
apreciación,
blind.
¿sí?
It's about principles, and laws
Origen
that
estricto de
we have
cómo
to know about how our word is
la unicidad del Eterno
working. Once we are with God, we got concentrated, we got
del
centered.
Eterno.
Who am I with the Lord?
Padre
I'm
Abraham
nothing.
dijo,
As our father Abraham says,
Dios de la
I am
alianza.
nothing when I'm with you. What
David
David King said,
que tenía
he
un
got a heart comfort as the Lord. I'm not going to become like me, the person that I have been given all my life. We have to be,
tenemos que andar
we have to know where we're placed.
¿ya? ¿Es otro Dios o es otro Dios con otras
This is
normas,
another
otras
Lord,
reglas? Si no
another logic to establish a relation.
ser una relación.
Principles and laws that our Torah show to us that are able to be
Con
uh,
espiritualidad en
able to be proved. The spiritual is a science able to be proved. I gave you an example of a family that is in Mexico. It was a problematic marriage. The typical case that the woman wants to change the husband and the husband wants to change the wife because the problem, both of them has the problem. I, I know that this is not in our homes, in our houses, in our marriages, but that's the typical thing. Then the wives asked me, what am I have to do? And my answer was, love him. I'm sorry? Well, you have been like a lot of years being married. You already know well your husband. You know the things, the good things that he has and also the bad things. You have to accept him, love him, as the scientific says here. How am I going to increase my concessions? Huge him, huge those changes. If he comes, yeah, fat, you have to love him. You have to accept him, love him. Until when you change that reality on your life, you will be able to see how your husband is going to change, because everything is changed based what is in your heart. In Jeremiah 17 and 10, the heart, Jeremiah, they 17, 9 and 10. So if your woman is if your wife is Fiona, it's because you are a Shrek. And what you have to do with her, with Fiona, you have to give her a huge. And what happened when Fiona changed a princess? Also, Shrek becomes a handsome prince, laid of the things that are similar. And on the third day, she told me, everything has changed in my home. It's because you have the solution in your hands. Instead of being or giving a judge to your husband, you have to accept him, love him, and everything on your end is going to be able to change. They are principles, laws. That's why the Kabbalists talk about that the Kabbalah is a science that is able to be proved, because they show us the laws and principles that they are judged or makes work this work. That's how we are able to get the happiness. We are as a fathers, as a parents, with the information that I just transmit to you, that the science give us, it's given us the effect that the love has in the race, human race, to to start to be able to see all the things that are sweet, to be able to change. So, is as I'm a father of family, I start to cultivate the way to love and peace. My daughters are going to be able to change. As the person that has a home that is, the director is a angry person, all the members of the family is going to be, they are going to be able to get sickness. Those sickness appeared and they disappeared. Because if we learn what the scientifics have told him, we will have homes more healthy. Sarat, it's the parasha that we have in our this week. It's about a spiritual thing. The person that has Sarat was not able to call to the doctor, but it was he was the person that determines if he has a rat or not.
Una vez el sacerdote dijera, y ahí en adelante las leyes del Sarán
Until that person tells that that person has a rat, the laws of Sarat starts to be applied to that person.
nosotros la afección
It's
los
not just the
efectos de la
affection,
palabra
also the
somos
effect
sacerdotes
of this
sobre la persona que tenía el padecimiento.
representant
Así
of
que
the Lord
nosotros nos
and the
enfrentamos
people
a
that
una
was in Israel.
situación física.
So,
Esas
if
manchas
we
no solo
start
salían
about
en
those,
el cuerpo, salían en la ropa, salían en las paredes de la casa.
these things starts to be able to be seen at the walls and the house. And what was the
¿Dónde
origin?
estaba la
The
solución?
spiritual word. Where was the solution? In the word, spiritual word.
Eso reta nuestra forma de razonar
This
estructuralmente.
bet.
Porque al final yo les haría la pregunta,
At the
¿qué
end, I'm going to ask you
enfermedad
this question:
no tiene una causa espiritual?
which sickness doesn't have a origin
En el
and
jardín del
the
Edén
spiritual word?
había enfermedades
As in the
fuera del jardín,
garden,
sí.
and then they
¿Qué
didn't
nos
have
sacó
a
del jardín
sickness
del
or something
Edén?
like that. What
O sea que la causa de toda
the
enfermedad.
cause of all the sickness is spiritual.
Así que la solución a toda
So the
enfermedad
solution to all the
debía de
sickness
buscarse en el mundo
should
espiritual.
be searched in the spiritual
La
word.
idea de impureza recaía sobre el afectado a partir de la palabra.
The
El efecto que la
impure
palabra tiene, no
loss
solo sobre el
would
cuerpo del
become
sacerdote,
just not to the body of the person that
ya
has with
estaba
that sickness. It was
porque
already in
han
the Torah,
venido los científicos a
but it
decirnos,
has but the scientifics has to tell us to believe in what the Torah has told always.
al tomar todo esto como verdad,
Until we take
comenzamos a
everything,
desarrollar
all this
capacidades
as a truth,
espirituales
we have abilities,
que pueden ser almáticas.
spirituals,
El alma no solamente
abilities,
puede trabajar en el mundo
because just the
espiritual,
soul is the one that is able
desarrollar
to work
capacidades
in the
almáticas
spiritual work
para
world
poder manejarnos en el mundo
to
espiritual,
manage in the spiritual
adquirir
world,
conocimientos
to get
y
knowledge
herramientas
and
espirituales
tools that are spirituals that they help us to
que
discover
realmente somos.
who we really are.
Porque hablamos del mundo
Because
espiritual
we talk
y
about the
hablamos de
spiritual
Dios.
word, but the question is,
Sabemos lo que es el mundo espiritual.
do we know what is the
Podemos
spiritual
manejar el
word?
mundo espiritual.
Can we
Tenemos la
do
capacidad
we have the
la
ability
capacidad de
to detect
detectar lo que está
the
causando
in the word
ese problema en el
spiritual
mundo físico.
that is
Una vez localizamos la
affected in our
causa,
physical world? Once we have
poder hacer
detect
algo en ese
that
mundo
cause,
espiritual
are we able to
para
do
generar
something to generate a change in the physical world?
sí, llegamos a
Yes.
esta conclusión
If
y
we
adquirimos
got that conclusion, if we got
nos
those
lleva al
knowledge,
reto
this knowledge,
para poder desarrollar
now we have the
las
homework
leyes de Mira y
to do
también
something.
entra nuestra parasha.
The Nidale
Es
laws.
importante
It's
que el
important
hombre
to
esté
the man to
apartado
be apart
de la
from
familia
his wife
familiar
7 days.
Me han preguntado muchas veces en
I've
esta
been
época de la
asked
parasha,
a lot of times for this
¿es
parasha,
necesario que el hombre
Rabino, is it
duerma
necessary
separado de su
to the man
esposa?
to be apart from his wife those 7 days?
Nida quiere decir
Nida means
apartada.
apart.
Y es porque cuando tomamos estas
And
leyes
it's because when we take those laws,
nuestra concepción de la
our
vida, de la
conception of the
muerte,
life and also to the death
Tumá
change.
es lo que traduce como
Toma,
impureza.
that
¿Qué quiere
is
decir?
taken as impure thing.
No.
That's in mean 30
Cuando algo
or
ha tenido
yeah, 30.
vida,
When
o
someone
la
has
capacidad
life
de dar
or
vida,
the ability
y se pierde esa
to
vida, o
to
esa
give life,
capacidad de dar vida,
and if
la
that
vasija queda
opportunity
en
to give
estado
life
impuro. No
it's
es
lost,
impura.
is when
Esa vasija que
this
ha perdido vida,
element has lost
la
the ability to
menstruación
give life.
es un luto que la
The menstruation is a
perdió la
is
capacidad de
a
dar.
loot
Por eso,
because she has lost the ability to give life, to give
la
life.
muerte o la
The
incapacidad
death
de dar vida
or the
es la antítesis
or
de la Torah. Antítesis es lo contrario. es lo contrario.
Antithesis.
Nosotros,
Antithesis.
por eso nosotros
That's why we are under this combination.
nos
We are
relacionamos
related first
primero
to identify what have life, what is alive, and we have the ability to difference between something that is alive or not. A person that is pretty showered and pretty good dressed, that person could be impure because that person doesn't have the ability to give life. And then that situation changed the situation of how we are related with the death. For example, if in our principles, if we go to a funeral and we enter to the place where the person is dead, that person is an status of tuma. Why that person is of that status? Because that person doesn't have life. And then if we come or if we enter to that place, when we go inside, when we go outside, we have to go and take a shower and wash our clothes. But why it works is because we have a conscience that in this work we are related with that death with the good way, knowing that that thing is the opposite to the Torah. That's why when we go outside a funeral, we do a netila without the blessing, and that way we are, because we are able to lick the difference between the pure thing and the things that are impure. We are with a lot of priests that we are related with. What do you know about if your friends, your neighbors, they are in a status of pure or repure or not? Or are you still in the thought that everything, all the people is sons of God? The Torah makes a difference. Do we do a difference with the Torah, with our friends? If not, our congregation is not the same of the Torah. And that's going to give us a struggle to increase in the Torah. So definitely for me, it's important to sleep separated. It's important to keep those 7 days away because they are laws and principles that the Torah has given us, because they are given to the respect to what the people is living. Okay. Also, that gives us life to our really marriage, to our relations with our wives and husbands. Because month by month we are separated, but then we become together again. Because at the end we are alive in our marriage. Remember that the enemy number one is the monotony, the routine. With all this, I want to you to reflection to keep an attitude that every time that we read the Torah, that that can would be able to confront the laws and principles that are here. A person uh, that is with the Torah and has learned about the principles and things that are that makes our word works, that person should change the perception and the conception of what is sickness, and also the way to look for the health. Don't you think so? The way that we confront every situation in our marriage should be different. The way that we are related with everything that is with us, it should be different, because our goal is established. A question from Argentina is asking, What about a prison that doesn't have administration anymore? Because there is a moment when actually the woman is not able to give life anymore. So that prison is still in the NEDA states or not. So, by the way, there are some psychologic, they still they recommend to keep going with that states of NIDA, but it doesn't mean that that person is going to be with that states of NIDA. It's just to continue with that custom, with that habit. So the base of our security or our trust or our confidence doesn't have to be based with the prison, with the people that they don't observe the Torah. How to achieve those this solution would be or should be different, and not to keep falling in the same mistakes in the marriage and also with the relation that this person doesn't know. The challenge is to change our logic. The challenge is that to show that we really are person, that are we are spirituals, that we are living in a physical world, but everything depends if we truly, if that knowledge or the knowledge of those principles and laws that the Torah gives us are so truly as the scientific word. Because for me, in what have been lived, when I have lived a little or a lot, what I have experimented with the Torah is a com- is a uh, is proved. Is a science proof that is able to be proved. The Torah. I ch- I bet you, and I will show you the way. I I don't remember the way how the psychologic says about to crash or to confront something to the people. Crash therapy, and it works. Things like, how do you think? I asked to this husband, how do you think that God wants to husband to be? So like lovely, be able to understand all these good attitudes. So you have to do it. It doesn't matter who you are, but you have to be the person that the God wants to you to be. So we have to live, because remember that this life is not ours. This life is God's life. So we have to live as the way He wants to live us. What type of wife do you think the Lord wants to you to be? I have to be patient, to help my husband, to be comprehensive. So do it. No, because it doesn't matter. When you can, when you want to change, if you want to have a totally different result, so comes to me and I'm going to give it the same answer, because this is a science. This is a science. Do it and you will be able to prove it that it actually this works. But it looks like, what I'm saying is like look more like I need like a title of scientific or investigator to be to people to believe what I'm saying, or the Torah, what the Torah says. We have to think about that, because if these kind of situations, as we have seen before in the Sinai mountain, we were there, then we decreased, and then we got the tabernacle, and then becomes a signet that was Sarat, that everybody knows that it was not a physical thing, it was a spiritual thing. That sickness was done here. Just imagine the experience of these people to be in this level that for them
que para ellos
it was
era evidente
truly, truly,
la enfermedad
truly
era de origen
that the
espiritual.
origin of that sickness was spiritual. Yes or not?
Por
But
eso,
now
imagínense para
look at
los
this.
patriarcas,
The
qué nivel
what
de
type
conciencia
of
tenían.
conscience
Pero
they
les
have,
cuento la última pregunta.
in which level
¿En
do
qué
we
nivel
are
estamos
with the
nosotros con el
Mashiach?
Mashiach?
Here,
¿Aquí?
here,
¿Aquí?
or beyond?
¿O más arriba?
So
¿Por
why
qué si
we
dudamos de lo que la
keep
Torah nos dice?
asking if what the Torah is telling us is truth or not? Why?
Yo todavía no estoy en contra
I'm
de los
not
médicos.
opposite to to the
Siempre
doctors.
confiamos
Why do we still
estoy convencido
trust
con
with
la
the
medicina, pero ¿sobre qué está
so
nuestra confianza,
our trust is based with
nuestra seguridad, nuestra estabilidad emocional? ¿De qué
our
depende?
emotional
¿Para qué estudiamos tanto
and
si seguimos
psychological
sufriendo como ignorantes?
emotions and feelings are based with, or based on
Mira, el
what?
Eterno,
Once the Lord
antes de la
that
cena del Señor,
before
cada uno de
the
nosotros
dinner of
pudiera
Pesach,
reflexionar
everybody has
sobre los
reflected or
obstáculos
thought about the
que
struggles that we
piensen,
have in
piensen
our
nuestros amigos y
conscience,
hacer oración y que podamos
and that we
crucificarlo
were able to
y
heal
que como era ese
that
día,
bad things that we have.
llegar a la mesa del
In that
Señor
dinner of Pesach, we have to
de
look
milagro
for that
todos los
change
que
that
necesitamos.
everybody needs.
Pero
So
para
for
eso
that, we have
tenemos
to
que
recognize
reconocer
first that
esa carga que nosotros todavía
bad things
traemos
that we still have
arrastrando
that
y Jehová enseñó
that
que nosotros
Mashiach
deberíamos de dejarlo
told
ir,
us that we have to live
renacer,
that weight
ir en una nueva vida y no estar arrastrando la vida
and
pasada. Y
live
así de
it.
esa forma de pensar, Raf Shaul lo decía,
Even that a
que
lot of
muchos han
people have
interpretado que no
interpreted
es
that to stop
para
to
reencarnar, no es
think
para
is
nada
not about that. We have to change the logic of how our brain works,
nuestra
the
forma de
way
emanar ideas, de
to get
discernir,
new ideas,
porque todo eso
because
se va,
everything is evolution,
sería la palabra,
is being
va
in
evolucionando
evolution in our
en la
way
medida
to the
que se
Torah. The only
la
solution
única solución
that
que nosotros
we are
podemos
able to
presentar
presentate here is to
es
die
morir y
and
nacer
be
de nuevo.
born again.
Yo los
I
reto,
bade you
invito
to in
a
this
la
Tevila
actividad que haremos para la
to
cena del
the
Señor,
dinner of Pesach based on
basado
the
en la
conscience,
que hemos tenido
conscience
ahora acerca
that
de
we have of
Mashiach,
Mashiach,
podamos
we will be
aceptarlo
able to accept him again to Mashiach, that we will be able to die
las veces
the
que sea
times that would be
necesario
necessary
a todo lo que
to
sabemos que
change.
nos está estorbando en nuestro camino.
That way we will be able to
Más
understand the
profundidad
deeply words that I have telling you
y
a
darnos
lot of times to understand
entender
that my
que
life
mi vida
is not mine.
no es mía.
I don't know if I'm getting you if I,
La vida
the life it's not
no es
mine.
mía.
We are here
Estamos aquí para cumplir una
to
voluntad,
get a
cumplirla
volunty
con gozo.
with happiness.
Entonces,
So
las ganas que a mí me dan
the
de hacer algo dependen
feelings that I have, they don't
deben de
have to.
dirigirme. Estudio Torah para poder saber
I
qué
study
tipo de
Torah
padre
to
y
be
qué tipo
what
de
a type
madre
of
y qué tipo de
husband,
maestro
teacher
yo debo de seguir.
I
Jamás
have to be, and it never has to,
deben de
and
estorbarme mis
my feelings and
sentimientos,
emotion doesn't have to
porque yo
give
no
me
puedo
struggles to do what I have to do.
pretender que esta vida
This
no
life
me
it's not
pertenece.
mine. Now,
Ahora bien,
the ability
la capacidad
to get
de cumplir
those
las
or
cosas,
to make those
de
words
hacerlo con alegría,
reality
eso solo
with
viene
happiness is
del
just
Mashiach. El que
able
no
to be
tiene el
done with the
Mashiach no va a
Mashiach.
estar
That person that doesn't have the Mashiach, that person is getting
continuamente
effort
en
and
el
trying and trying and
Mashiach
trying,
es como un
but
árbol
that
que está
person is not doing the things well.
usted se imagina usted,
That person is just not doing.
el árbol crece normal, natural.
The tree increased naturally without any effort. You can see a
Si usted
tree
siembra
that is
una
with
pared
below
inclinada
the wall.
del lado contrario, él no va a
It's
arrancar,
going to be inclinated. If
¿verdad?
that is
Crece ahí
increased there,
de una manera,
it's
de una
naturally
manera natural.
relaxed. It's not getting accommodated. Nobody else. That way we have to ground, but with the Mashiach. And this Pesach dinner, as I said in the parasha before, We are going to drink that blood and we are going to eat that body, but with conscience, with a study of what we need, not just about him. Let's pray.
Señor Rey del Universo, Padre eterno, Padre bondadoso, te damos gracias, porque tu bondad ha permanecido con cada uno de nosotros, a pesar de nuestros pecados, tal como lo tuviste con nuestros padres en el desierto. Padre bendito, escucha nuestros corazones, atiende nuestra súplica, necesitamos un milagro en nuestro corazón, necesitamos una transformación en nuestra forma de pensar y razonar para poder aprender tus principios y tus leyes, tus verdades absolutas que tú manifiestas en nuestra vida, no solo a través de la escritura, sino a través de su majestad, Yeshua. Que cada uno de nosotros, conforme la sinceridad de su corazón, podamos tomar de esa justicia que Él se despojó, de ese poder del que Él se despojó, para poder compartir lo que tú eres con cada uno de nosotros. Gracias te damos, Señor Rey del Universo. Amén. Vamos a guardar la Torah. En aquel día en Jerusalén
celebraremos todo Israel, que todo el mundo escuche nuestra voz. No estamos muertos y cantamos Efraín, 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 estamos juntos para recibir al rey. La tribu de Judá y la tribu de Efraín, un solo pueblo, un solo Elohim. El mundo entero al fin despertará, verán la luz desde Jerusalén. Efraín, 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 Efraín.
Shabbat Shalom a todos, un abrazo.
Estamos listos para recibir al rey.